What's up, everybody? CP and SJ with you for the quarterfinal rendition of Every Day we're covering here for the College Football Playoff. We're going to get into these quarterfinal round picks here for you, analyze these games a little bit, and hopefully we'll deliver some good selections for you. And we're hoping for some good football this time around, SJ.
Yeah, as we saw in the opening round games, there's no guarantees of anything. We saw maybe some cool atmospheres and some different matchups, but when it comes to playing on the field, it's anybody's game. But that's college football in itself. I know there's going to be always the complaints of who got picked and didn't, and that's going to feed into it. But we see it throughout the whole season. Anybody can beat anybody, and that's part of the attraction to it.
Yeah, and hopefully we do end up with just for our viewing sake some more closely contested contests. But yeah, you never know; it could happen again. Could be the same way this time around. We can only watch and find out. But we do have some compelling, at least, storylines, I think, in some of these games. And we're going to just kind of go in chronological order of when these games will take place. So we're going to start with the Friday night contest, the first quarterfinal game at the Fiesta Bowl out there in Glendale. It'll be Boise State taking on Penn State. Right now, as the overall ranking set, it was Boise State coming into the postseason ranked ninth and Penn State ranked fourth. But obviously, Penn State looked very good in their opening round win. We're very emphatic winners and have been playing well here down the stretch. Boise State, they've had some time to sit and analyze and prepare. Kind of yet to be seen how that plays for some of these teams, whether or not it's a good thing that you've been hanging around game planning and healing up that long, or whether it's better that you were out there on the field. But SJ, your initial thoughts here on this matchup?
That's you bring up a good point right there to start off. It's if you win, it's going to be like, oh, the rest helped. But if you lost, like, oh, we would have just either played. So it's all a perspective thing. But I do think there's some validity to it in the fact that depending on how you prepare, there can be an advantage to it. I try not, we like an underdog story, so I'm trying not to like just you got to use your head a little bit still and not just be like, oh, I think Boise can do it. You got to have a little bit of rationale to your argument there, and just looking at everything, I don't know. It's hard to find a way that they can win four quarters. I could see them maybe getting an early lead, or maybe hanging tough within a score and maybe kind of seeing it fall away from them there at the end. But it is hard to like kind of even with with the our Heisman, the people's Heisman in the backfield, it's still tricky to see with how that Penn State defense played. But I do think that Boise can keep it close, and that's to their advantage. And why I'm going the way I'm going is because of that. I'm going to take the unders on this 53.5 that you mentioned there. I just think that that Penn State defense is playing hard, but are they going to get two more pick sixes this week? I
Right.
don't see that happening. And to me, that kind of makes it plays into more the lower scoring affair because they're not exactly, a lighted up type of offense. Boise's done it, but not against the likes of a Penn State. I know they had some success against Oregon, but again, Oregon's not a defensive based team. So I'll take the under on the totals. Although, with these games, we can't be surprised about anything. It's just too much, a little bit too much of a long shot to hang our hat on Boise, even covering because you could see a late touchdown or two and it gets away from them. But I think we could be in for an entertainment matchup if Boise is able to kind of make it be that we talked about on the pod, that slow it down, kind of muck it up type of game.
Yeah, I see where you're going with the under part of it. That definitely could be something that plays out because you don't think of both these teams as kind of like consistently high powered. Like Boise State can put up a lot of points, and they have, but Penn State, it's been more of the recent weeks. They've done that a couple times, not necessarily throughout the entire season. So, yeah, I can see the defenses winning the day here. Where I'm going to go with this too, I'm with you. You kind of temper your, maybe what you want to happen a little bit, rooting for the underdog with Boise State here. But I don't know. I guess I'm going with the fact that I think they can hang around close enough because they've proven they can do that already this season against what most consider to be the best team in college football. They were right there with Oregon earlier this year. Granted, that was the beginning of the season, and that's usually a little bit different. But they played well ever since then. They've kind of just continued to do what they need to do to put themselves in this position. They're no stranger to these types of games. They go play the big dogs all the time, year in, year out. They're back on the site of their one of the most historic wins in college football history. So I'm sure that provides a little bit of motivation for the fans, certainly that'll be there and be amped up for it. And you got a dynamic running back that I think is still going to be able to do some damage. Yeah, Penn State's going to really focus on slowing Genty down, but Boise State's proven, like we talked about last time, that they can score in other ways too. It's not just him. So I think that they can do enough to hang around here. I don't think Penn State's this dominant team that's going to run away from them. So I'll take that 11 points. I kind of almost wish when we first talked about it, I think it was at 13.
Yeah, it's dropped down. Yep.
Yeah, so that would have been even better, but I still feel like they're going to hang close enough here. They lose, I think it's going to be by a touchdown. So I'll take those 11 points.
Yeah, when I say get away from, I guess I'm saying, a 10 to 14 point loss rather than keeping it within a touchdown. So that the covering the spread, I don't think is that far of a reach there. And I'm just playing a little safe, I guess. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility at all. And like I said, anything's possible. Who knows? Boise could have the ball with a chance to win it. I don't see that as a long shot, really.
Yeah, so that's how we see that first one playing out here. It should be a lot of fun to get it started, hopefully, there on New Year's Eve. Then we move into New Year's Day, and we'll get started at noon with the Peach Bowl down there in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for the next quarterfinal round game. Arizona State, 12th ranked, takes on 3rd ranked Texas. Right now, I'm seeing Texas as a 12-point favorite, and the number set at 51 or 51 and a half. A couple of different places I'm seeing it here. But this is going to be an interesting matchup again. And again, like we talked about before, does it help that Arizona State's had some time to prepare and whatnot? For their sake, they were kind of on a heater here at the end of the year, so maybe they didn't want to sit down for a while and have that momentum carry over. But I don't know. I part of me initially kind of wanted that number. I just thought is kind of high. But still, I'm with you kind of way you were thinking on this last game. I could see maybe a late score pushing this thing out to a couple scores if Texas plays consistently throughout the game. I think they probably overall are the better team. But I just see this one being the offenses do have a little bit more success. Arizona State's proven that they're kind of, explosive at times, even though they are a run heavy team. Scatterboog is a guy that can really bust it open for some pretty big runs, even though he's more of a hard-nosed, tough type runner. They still chunk it down the field sometimes. And then Texas, they've shown that they can put up some points at times if they get rolling. They haven't done it consistently, but I think they're going to do it enough here in this game. I don't think the defenses are going to win the day. So I'm going to go over at that 51 mark. So I'm thinking that's kind of where this goes. What are you looking at here?
I mean, you got to think that the time spent off Arizona State was, really honing in on that film from the Georgia game against Texas. Because, I mean, not huge success. And I guess, these last couple of years, I wouldn't consider Georgia as like a run heavy team compared to when, they had some of the backs they've had in recent memory that just kind of run all over the place, with like no Sean Moreno or that type of thing. I mean, that's going back a little bit, but I think our audience still probably remembers that guy. But either way, just I think as I guess, fortune or whatever would have it, they have a pretty, decent, to above average running back coming out of the backfield there. So I'm assuming they're going to, pound that pretty heavy. And be in college football, I mean, there's got to be an upset somewhere, right? It seems like something funky is going to happen. And I don't mean an upset like in the outright win version, but just something we don't expect to see happen. And I think that might be the case in this one, being closer than what people may think or expect. I think a lot of the probably, opinions are that Texas could run away with this one and get up on my way, which obviously it's a possibility. It's not impossible. And we've seen them do it this year, but I think Arizona State can stay within the spread. And I was able to play it at 13. So that gives you a little bit more cushion there. So I'm a little more comfortable. Anything lower than that, I probably wouldn't feel as confident with, but I think they can maybe stick within that, and they may have to get a backdoor cover there at the end. Maybe Texas kind of, puts off the foot off the gas a little bit, and Arizona State's able to get a couple late TDs because other than the running back, they do have some weapons on the outside as well. They got some decent receivers and can pitch around a little bit. So scoring points isn't going to be like impossible. It's just how does the matchup play out? That's the trick with all these games.
Yeah, going to be an interesting one for sure. There to start off that second day of action. Then, of course, we go to the afternoon slate and that old coveted Rose Bowl out there in Pasadena at 4 o'clock here our time. Ohio State right now a 2.5 point favorite as I'm seeing it. With the number at either 55 and a half. Yeah, 55 and a half is what I'm seeing in both places I'm looking here right now. So this will be another interesting game. I think as far as, the pundits are concerned, this is the one everybody's most excited about just because of the name brand. And then we obviously saw a great game between them earlier this season already. SJ, where you leaning here?
Yeah, I mean kind of the one of the things that sticks in your head, hard to beat a team twice. That's true, and Ohio State coming off that pretty impressive, honestly. The way they not so much that they beat Tennessee because they've obviously lost this season, but how they shut them down and was just totally dominant. I understand you got the home field advantage, like technically. I mean, as many would say from the southern part of this country that they had more fans than Ohio State did. Whether that's true or not, it didn't end up mattering because Ohio State just friggin' took them out to the woodshed. So I mean that kind of builds up into this, and I do agree with the hard to beat a team twice thing, but we said it before, and just the last pod, it's Oregon seems like a team on a mission almost. They're just really even when they've had kind of an off week or a bad week, they still. I mean, they didn't win easily, but they got the job done. And you look at any championship team, there's going to be a week or two like that when you have to find something, find some magic, if you will. Make a kind of one of those incredible plays you only see once a decade. And maybe they didn't get to that level, but they definitely had some games where they kind of came through in the clutch and when they really needed to, and they just have the players that are able to do that. I think this one, I mean, it makes you the one thing I'll say on the other side is that spread does make you wonder a little bit, just because not so much that I don't necessarily buy into the whole Vegas knows thing, but there's got to be some type of intel out there that's making them lean that way, because whether they know or not, they definitely don't want to lose money. We can all agree that that's a fact. So, but in this case, though, I do think the wrong team's favorite. So I'll go ahead and I'll take the 2.5. I think Oregon wins by a touchdown, but I do think we may get a pretty entertaining game. At least we're hoping for that. Could see it getting ugly, but I just think Ohio State maybe kind of has that they've refocused and they're kind of where they started the season out with that kind of mindset. Maybe they found something there after that Michigan loss. I said it at the time, it sounded kind of stupid, but I thought maybe it was something that could kind of get them refocused and kind of be like, hey, this is who we are, this is what we want to be, and end up working, end up looking that way now. But Oregon's just probably too much of a task, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the opposite thinking when it comes to playing in that first round that Ohio State needed to play. They needed to go out there and get right the ship, so to speak, after the way their season ended. So it was a good thing for them, and certainly built them a little bit of momentum. Now, as we kind of alluded to, and we were talking about this game on the pod already, I think maybe there also is a little bit of a quick reactionary take from the fans' perspective too, because it was an impressive win, yes, but are we putting too much stock into that one game that they kind of came out and probably had a whole hell of a lot of motivation to play well in? Now you're playing a team that I think is much better, and are you able to reproduce that? I'm with you. I think this is going to be a good game, but at the end of the day, when you're talking about an offense there at Oregon, it's averaging 285 through the air, 129 on the ground. They're versatile, they're explosive, and then I do love the playmakers that Ohio State has surrounding the team on the outside. But when it comes to the guy that has the ball in his hand the most, Dylan Gabriel has been phenomenal, and I think that that's what's going to make the difference again here for Oregon to be able to pull off this win. So I'm with you. I'm going Oregon taking the 2.5.
And not to not to try and be too negative on the player for Howard for Ohio State, but have we seen him play back-to-back games like he played against Tennessee? Because that's what you're going to need from him. Like, he played amazing in that game, but can he do it again against I mean, the number one only undefeated team that there is left out there?
Yeah. Yeah, very true. It's going to be a fun game. Hopefully, we do get an exciting one. But we're both kind of on the same page here, thinking that the number one ranked team is there for a reason. So we'll see how it plays out. We're going to go to the nightcap there with the Sugar Bowl down in New Orleans at the Superdome. Second ranked Georgia taking on fifth ranked Notre Dame. Right now, I'm showing Georgia as a 1.5 point favorite, and the number at 44.5. This is interesting, obviously, for a number of reasons, but certainly the big storyline coming in is the fact that Georgia has to play start to finish with their now backup quarterback. Obviously, they got it done in the SEC championship when the starter Carson Beck went out, and they come in and get the win still against a pretty good Texas team. But now you've got a whole game to do that against a team that looks like they're playing very well right now in Notre Dame. I think we were all fairly impressed with the way that they controlled that game. Score wasn't as close as it looked, at the end of the day in that game against Indiana. They really just controlled it from the onset. So I don't know. I think we're both kind of thinking the same way here in this game, and maybe. I don't know. Maybe there is a little bit too of that, recency just watching that one game and how well Notre Dame played. But we've talked about, I think, they've turned it around ever since they had their one stumble, and they played well ever since. So I think they're the more well-rounded, complete team. I do understand there's an injury on that defensive front that's going to hurt them a little bit in this game, probably. But when you're talking about a guy who hasn't played all season long, and then you've got the pressure of winning a playoff game on your shoulders now and coming into an atmosphere like that in a Georgia team that already was pretty shaky at times throughout the year. We've seen them lose to teams that we consider not as good as this Notre Dame team. So I'm going to take that 1.5 and go with the Fighting Irish here. I just think they're better set up for this.
Well, I mean, and you add to that just be kind of in your own backyard there a little bit. I imagine there's going to be quite a few Georgia fans that make the trip there, and you think of that maybe as a good thing a lot of times, but with a younger player, a more inexperienced player, I should say at least, you have off to a bad start, and that can get pretty hostile real quick. I'm sure the boo birds could be out early, or just the groans, or that that tension that you can feel. You don't really like. You have to be in the stadium for it, but I'm talking about. Just kind of gets the team gets off to a bad start, or maybe a couple early, big plays for their team, and you're just kind of like, what the heck's going on type of thing. So that could definitely play into that. And I mean, yeah, the defensive line losses for Notre Dame, that's definitely going to hurt. But I mean, who would you rather lose? In a general sense, a defensive tackle or a quarterback? Not to, we know the trenches are important, but in this case, you definitely would rather have your starting quarterback than a defensive lineman. So, and I do think, whatever flip they switched, or switch they flipped. I can't say that. There you go. Whatever happened there at Notre Dame, it's they haven't looked back since then. I only remember much of a competitive game, even when we thought maybe Navy could give them a run, or in the later in the season they had some big games there against USC, and it wasn't even really competitive. So they're just another team that's kind of on a mission in their own right. So it's hard to pick against them at this point, just because the way they've looked is. It's kind of like that physical dominating style of victory, and that thing kind of translates. It's not we need to execute this particular player, or we need 300 passing yards, or we need this, but they're just beating people up, and that's the way you want to play football, no matter how offensive change or more. If it's physicality is always going to be there at the top. So I think they'll win. I'll go ahead and take them straight up. I've kind of flirted with bumping that spread up a little bit to their favor, but we're still getting plus money on the money line. So go ahead and just take them to win straight up. And I know a lot of us have to head back to work there on January 2nd, and we may be able to call tonight early, because I think this one could be decided before we get to the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you mentioned the way that they play too, and I think that is important. Jeremiah Love, obviously a great back there, and they just seem to line up, and they want to run it at you, run it down your throat type of team sometimes. And I think that translates well no matter who the opponent is here. So going to be interesting. It definitely is a taller task against a Georgia defense that they probably haven't seen the types of yet this season, but still, it's not like we've talked about, not the Georgia defense of old either. So I think there's a distinct advantage here. So obviously, like we said, we could expect any of these things to kind of go one way or the other. It's not rather surefire predictable anymore at this point, and I think we're going to get that proven out here. But should be a lot of fun to watch. That's ultimately what we want out of this playoff.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't want it that way either. If it's all chalk, it gets kind of boring. Even when you look at any postseason, whether it be the NFL, March Madness, you want a little bit of maybe you always want the best teams to win, but a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of trepidation, and some anxious moments. That's kind of nice to add to the mix, and not just be so one sided, because we saw that already. Let's go ahead and let's not do that again this time.
Yeah. Well, we hope you've got the beverages on ice and ready to go here to celebrate a new year with this beautiful college football playoff quarterfinal round. Hopefully our picks are good to you, and hopefully the new year starts well here for you, and we have some fun with it. Well, there will be some plenty of other games, of course, on the schedule here coming up. So do lock into our socials. You see the handles there for Twitter. We'll be putting out some other kind of bonus picks along the way, as well as some other bowl games. I know we talked before we even recorded on a few that we're kind of peeking at. So we'll put those out there. Be on the lookout for that with the updates on Twitter and the graphics. So that'll be there for you. We, of course, would love it if you would like, subscribe, get the notifications here on this YouTube channel so you can get our picks, all the time. And of course, we'll have more to come after this quarterfinal round. We get to the semis and then the championship of this playoff, and still winding down bowl season. And then, of course, if you would like and share the podcast, available on all the major platforms, including our host at Spotify. Just search Every Day We're Covering, and you'll be able to find the show. And we hope you enjoy talking gambling, having fun, having beverages, and college football with us this time of year. Of course, after that's over, we'll switch gears into some hoops and some other stuff that's going on out there, and have some fun year-round for sure. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another week of picks here on Every Day We're Covering. Happy New Year. We'll see you next time for some more covers.